Fox's Grady Trimble tells us that both flight recorders have been recovered.
The black box from the helicopter in particular will be critical in this investigation because if that helicopter was in fact flying higher than it should have been, the investigators will be able to use that black box to tell. The NTSB is not responding to President Trump's comments that DEI hiring of air traffic controllers during the Biden administration played a role in the crash, but it does tell us it's interviewing the air traffic controllers who were working at the time of Wednesday's mid-air collision. The NTSB has begun removing debris from the Potomac River.
The collision killed all 67 people on board both aircraft. Reportedly, one air traffic controller was doing the work of two people, which is allowed in that instance. President Trump has fired a darling of advocates for financial fairness. It's Rohit Chopra, who ran the Consumer Financial Protection Board. He had overseen the removal of medical debt from credit reports and helped impose limits on penalties for overdrafts. He had said his bureau is willing to work with the Trump administration. America is listening to Fox News.
It is time to take the quiz.
5 days a week, it's 5 questions in less than 5 minutes. We ask people on the streets of New York City to play along. Let's see how you do.
What are the 2 active volcanoes on mainland Europe called?
Is Vesuvio one of them?
Vesuvius and Etna.
How'd you do? Exactly. These get tougher, so hang on.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox. Then come back here to see how you did. Thank you for taking the quiz.
As President Donald Trump begins his second term.
Promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises.
Stick with the Fox News Rundown as history is made during his first 100 days. Whether it impacts your family, your wallet, or the world, our team of journalists will give you the sharp analysis and perspective you expect from Fox News. The Fox News Rundown, the first 100 days. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Who he has chosen. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. Indiana has a new inspector general. Harrison Silcox reports.
Jared Prentice accepted the position. Governor Mike Braun made the announcement Friday. Inspector General, if you don't know, is supposed to make sure there's no sort of fraud or mismanagement going on within state governments while also creating a positive work culture. Prentice has plenty of experience as an attorney in both the public and private sector. He's responsible for the creation of the Indiana Department of Revenue's Compliance Department. Harrison Silcox, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
And Hoosier Senator Todd Young asked this question to President Donald Trump's nominee to run the Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler, this week.
Do you have specific ideas about how SBA might be modernized and improved under your leadership?
I would look at a broad range of efficiency, both cost and technological efficiencies that could be gained. I'll be looking at organizational design.
Young said he was also encouraged to hear that Loeffler believes small business is about free enterprise and not the government. Dry January is officially over. For those who took part in the annual tradition of backing off the booze for a month, research shows that saying no to alcohol can actually boost your mood and your immune system, help you sleep better, and aid in dropping a few pounds. Also on the plus side, you likely saved some money. The average price for gas across the state is currently $2.95 per gallon, according to GasBuddy.com. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
Tonight, mostly cloudy, some spotty areas of drizzle in the early morning hours. Low temperatures in the low to mid-30s. For Sunday, Groundhog Day, mostly cloudy, with winds gusting up to 25 miles an hour. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Discussing end-of-life matters can be uncomfortable, but it's also necessary to ensure that loved ones' wishes are well known ahead of time. This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joy's House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. Up next, I'll share suggestions to help ease anxiety surrounding the talk.
Cardon and Associates offers the finest senior living options tailored to your loved one's needs. Reservations are now being accepted for new apartments at Copper Trace in Westfield. Visit cardon.com.
Direct, open, and honest conversation is the best way to discuss end-of-life wishes. Knowing your loved one's preferred treatments and desired arrangements will ready everyone for when the time comes. Also helpful, creating a will or trust to ensure assets are distributed accordingly. And consider an end-of-life doula to assist your family during the process. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joyce House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access a library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And good afternoon, and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled that you're with us, as we always are. If you want to watch the broadcast, by the way, you can go to YouTube and check that out. You go to 93 WIBC, their page on YouTube, and continue the Gun Guy Show if you care to. And we have a lot to get into, and I'm excited about a couple of different topics. One is that, and I'm not often shocked by what happens at the Indiana General Assembly, but I was somewhat shocked here this week, late this week, when the bill that I wrote, it's House Bill 1137, and it would allow courts, in fact, it would require courts to expunge the records associated with a red flag case if someone's found to be not dangerous. And we say expunge, we mean essentially seal those records so they're not available to the public. It wouldn't show up as part of a background check, as part of a job, or if someone's just being nosy, they want to go get on My Case or some other publicly accessible database, they wouldn't see that you'd been wrongly, falsely accused of being dangerous, quote unquote, under the red flag law once you win your case. And that makes perfect sense. If you win, you're found to be not dangerous, by definition, that shouldn't affect your life. And I've had a lot of clients, and I've defended, I'm sure, I haven't seen statistics on this, but I'm relatively sure I've defended more red flag cases than any lawyer in the state. And we've had the red flag statute on the books, and there are a lot of problems with it. And I took it to the Court of Appeals of Indiana, arguing that it was unconstitutional. You know, every time I talk on social media about improving the red flag law, about tweaking it, and we've tweaked it a lot, and it's a lot better. I helped write a bill in 2019 that injected much more due process into it and had a lot more protections for gun owners built into it. But every time I talk about improving the red flag statute, I have people come out and say, why can't we just have this declared unconstitutional? Why can't we just repeal it? Well, first of all, there's no appetite in the General Assembly for repealing it. And you can complain about that among our legislators all you want to. There are too many examples out there of law enforcement officers who would come in. There would be dozens and dozens of them who came in if we tried to repeal it and say, oh, we saved this person who was suicidal. We saved this person who was homicidal. We saved this person who was, abusing. We saved a person who was being abused by a violent spouse who was threatening with a firearm. There would just be a lot of stories where legislators are scared to death of that. And yes, there's an argument that it's unconstitutional. I'm the lawyer who took our red flag case to the Indiana Court of Appeals, tried to then go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court didn't want to take it, and arguing that our red flag law is unconstitutional. So I need no lectures about the statute being unconstitutional. We're stuck with the statute in Indiana for now. That's the cold reality. And deal with that as you will, but that's the cold reality. So what we can do, however, dealing with a red flag case that's on the books that has no real prospect of being repealed in my lifetime. Of course, I'm an old guy, so maybe that'll happen down the road. What we can do is try to improve it. And one way we're trying to improve it is through this House Bill 1137. And that it says where when we go in and we prove someone's not dangerous, we should and can and must expunge those records. In addition, even if someone's found to be dangerous at an initial hearing, they can, under the statute, they can request to go back and have another hearing. They have to wait at least 180 days. If they wait at least that long, they can request another hearing, then go in and prove they're no longer dangerous. And even if they've been found to be dangerous at a prior date, at a prior hearing, they prove they're no longer dangerous, the judge at that point would have discretion to also expunge those records as well. If they're found to have never have been dangerous at a very first hearing, it's mandatory they expunge those records. And I'm thrilled about this because I've had so many clients, because we win the vast majority of red flag cases where I'm ever involved. And that's not me bragging on what kind of lawyer I am. That's not at all. It's because I take the cases that I think we should win. To be completely frank about it, or someone comes to me and they obviously have severe mental issues, I'll counsel them to seek help for those mental issues. Like, you know what, let's get you some help first and we'll worry about your guns after that. And someone gets help, they get better, they get treated, they get counseling, whatever it is. Hey, great. Well, now let's go back, now that you're okay, and let's fight for your Second Amendment rights. I've done that. I've done it repeatedly. But when we go in and we have a contested hearing, I've won the vast majority of those. And again, that's not bragging. That's just the simple truth. But when we've won them, and my clients found to have never been dangerous, to not be dangerous, they've still had their jobs lost. They've had relationships ruined. They've had volunteer opportunities, like at their kids' school, for instance, disappear because they have a background check done and boom. Here's this red flag proceeding where someone's alleged they're dangerous, their guns have been seized, and yes, they've gone in and they've won, but now this significantly impacts their life. And listen, I talked about this last week, and I won't repeat that discussion. The good news is that the bill successfully passed out of committee 11-0 in the Courts and Criminal Code Committee in the House. Then it got second reading on the floor of the legislature, is where amendments can be proposed and discussed, debated, voted on. It went through without any amendments on second reading, and then got scheduled for third reading. That's where it's voted on in a roll call vote. And get this, it passed 91-0 on the floor of the House. 91-0. I've never had, and I posted this on social media, I never believed for a moment that any Second Amendment related bill, certainly one that I wrote, in a million years would ever go to the floor of the House and be approved unanimously. This just tells me that there's unanimous support for the idea that when you're falsely accused, wrongly accused, maybe in good faith, maybe it was malicious, maybe it was vindictive, but for whatever reason a red flag's brought against you, once you prove that you're in fact not dangerous, that you shouldn't have your Second Amendment rights stripped from you, that then shouldn't impact your life afterward, and we ought to expunge those records. And so 91-0. So now the bill moves over to the Senate. Senator Aaron Freeman has agreed to be our sponsor in the Senate. I'm thrilled about that. It hasn't been assigned to a committee in the Senate yet, but it will most likely be assigned to the Corrections and Criminal Code Committee in the Senate, and our Senate sponsor, Aaron Freeman, is actually chairman of that committee. So the fact that he took that bill on, I'm sure he's got a lot of bills that he'll have to manage, potentially, that have passed in the House that are going to come through his committee in the Senate. We're extremely optimistic the bill will get a hearing over there if and when that's scheduled, and we think that'll happen. I'll let you know. We had great support, and I thanked people last week who showed up at our committee hearing. And we're there to support. Some people testified. Some people were just there to show their support for the bill. And that makes a difference. It makes a difference. I'm telling you it does. And hopefully we make that happen again in the Senate, and we move that bill on through, and we'll significantly improve our red flag law. Again, I'm the guy who argued that it was unconstitutional. Don't lecture me on social media or otherwise. This bill's unconstitutional. Well, yes, thank you. Unfortunately, the Court of Appeals of Indiana disagreed. And when I tried the Indiana Supreme Court to get them to take a look at it as well, they said, no, we're just fine with what the Court of Appeals had to say on it. So we're stuck with it. And by the way, on that point, and listen, I believed in earnest that our statute was unconstitutional. Otherwise, I wouldn't have argued that it's unconstitutional in an appellate proceeding. And I still think I was right in the arguments that I made, but the courts disagreed. It's illustrative, it's informative that there are 18 or 19 states, last time I checked, that have red flag statutes within their state, and not a single one of them across the country has been found to be unconstitutional. Now, does that mean they're truly not unconstitutional? People say, hey, they have a problem with them under the Second Amendment. I agreed. I made that argument. Have a problem with them under the 14th Amendment, which guarantees due process. Couldn't agree more. That's the argument I made. The courts have disagreed. They've disagreed consistently across the country when they've been challenged. So what we can do, and this is why I advocate for this, and that's why I fight hard for this, and I'll continue to fight hard for it, and there are still more improvements we can make. That's why we need to take the law we have and make it as good as we possibly can within the confines that we have. And that's where we are on that. We're going to take a break. We come back. I'm going to talk about a bill introduced at the federal level that I'm way excited about, with a Republican majority in both the House and the Senate. I'm really hoping this thing moves forward. Talk about what that is, and as well as start taking your calls, 317-239-9393. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
This is a bill that prohibits minors under 16 from using social media without parental permission.
This is an example of government trying to resolve a problem that they have no business being in, which is how you parent your kid. If you want your kid to be on social media, that's your right as a parent. You dictate that.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class, as I always say, is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. And our next one is coming up on March 15th out at Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range, located in Avon. It says 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. This one's getting close to being sold out. These courses always sell out. If you want to join us to understand the laws that affect you as an Indiana gun owner, if you own a gun, if you have a gun in your home, certainly if you carry a gun, this is the course you need to take to make sure you stay on the right side of the law. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online. Go to tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Hey, Pat Sullivan here with an amazing offer for my friends at Hope Plumbing. For the month of February, install a tankless water heater and get $1,000 off. That's right. Get $1,000 off any tankless water heater. So if taking endless hot showers, cutting down on your gas bill, and saving space in your home is on your to-do list, call my friends at Hope Plumbing and get your tankless water heater installed today. Visit them online at hopeplumbing.com.
Terry Stacy for Cardwell Do It Best Home Center, just south of the Gateway Arch on Indy's South Side. Your discount roofing headquarters. Stop in for wholesale and factory direct pricing on the roofing shingles and supplies you need at the price you love. They offer dimensional and 3-tab shingles at low, low prices. Cardwell also carries a full line of best look quality paints produced by Sherwin-Williams, America's largest paint manufacturer, with paint and primer all in one. Cardwell also carries a full line of Hillman fasteners mowers. And for winter, snow shovels, rock salt, and ice melter all in stock. At Cardwell Do It Best, you'll also find a full line of lawn and garden supplies, plumbing, electrical, with lumber and building materials too. Cardwell Home Center. Shop online at cardwellhomecenter.com with over 67,000 products available and free shipping to the store. Cardwell Do It Best, 3205 Madison Avenue, just south of the Gateway Arch on Indy's South Side, serving the greater Indianapolis community since 1945.
Recent talk about rising interest rates and economic uncertainty may have you wondering if now is the right time to sell your home. Will I get the price I need? Will it take too long? The good news, you don't have to figure this out by yourself. There's a friendly, no-pressure, experienced agent who eats and sleeps Indianapolis real estate. Call Mark Dietl. Maybe you want guaranteed, no-hassle sale, but don't want to give up hard-earned equity to do it. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed-upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what Katie and Chris in Perry Township had to say about working with Mark Dietl. Sadly, our marriage was ending, and we were both ready to sell the home and move forward ASAP. Mark Dietl made it happen fast and easy. Our home sold for more than we anticipated in 24 hours with 17 showings and multiple offers. Call the local Indianapolis agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietl at 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietl.com. That's Mark, Dietel.com.
I'm Patrick McCaffrey, basketball player at Butler University. In 2023, I stepped away from the game and got professional help when anxiety started to overwhelm me. If you're having a mental health crisis, assistance is available for you too. Just call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, where a trained specialist will give you immediate support. That's what helped me, and it can help you too. Call 988. When you need someone who gets you, they got you.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. Cancer screening tests can help keep the person you love around longer by detecting changes before cancer develops, or catch it early when it may be easier to treat. And many tests are available for free or covered by insurance. It's time to sound like a broken record. Tell all your friends and family, I love you. Get screened. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
We're all different. 1 in 5 of us live with a mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Talk to someone you trust. Learn more at bringchangetomind.org.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. A bill introduced in the Senate, in Congress, in the House, in Congress, I'm completely excited about. And listen, we've had similar bills that frankly don't go quite so far, introduced before, that ended up not going anywhere. But listen, we got to be at least cautiously optimistic, where in fact Republicans have control of both the House and the Senate. And we have President Trump in the White House. Now, President Trump hasn't been perfect on the Second Amendment. You've heard me say that before if you listen to the Gun Guy Show. And so we'd have to see how he'd do on this. I, again, would be at least cautiously optimistic. But what is this? It's creatively named. It's they're referring to it as the Shush Act. And that gives you a hint right there about what it's about. Shush, SSHUSH. and that stands for Silencers Help Us Save Hearing Act. And what it does is it goes a step further than what we've seen before. We've had the Hearing Protection Act and similar bills introduced before, ended up not going anywhere, that would have taken suppressors off of the NFA list. And what do I mean when I say off the NFA list? The NFA, the National Firearms Act, it regulates firearms such as machine guns, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and certain other classes of firearms thought to be more unusual and in the words of Congress, more dangerous, quote-unquote, firearms, which is a little silly. All firearms are dangerous depending on where they're pointed and how they're used. But these guns really came to be regulated coming out of Prohibition, the gangster era, the late 20s, where Congress, I think more glorified by Hollywood than anything, saying, movies where gangsters are running around with Thompson submachine guns, fully automatic firearms, and having shotguns tucked up under their coats, and murdering people accordingly. And again, a lot of it glorified by Hollywood. Congress said, oh my gosh, and in 1934 passed the National Firearms Act, where they were still afraid of the Second Amendment in 1934. They still thought if they came out with an outright ban of some firearms, that would be overturned under the Second Amendment. So they didn't ban the firearms. They just taxed the hell out of them. And in fact, put a $200 tax on things like machine guns and short-barreled rifles and short-barreled pistols. They included suppressors and what they called at the time silencers or firearm mufflers, which are what you and I would call a suppressor today. And the term, and I've said this before on the show, and you probably know where I'm going, the term silencer actually comes from the inventor of suppressors, Hiram Percy Maxim, who was also a huge innovator and inventor in the area of automobile mufflers. He used basically the same technology of a muffler in terms of a series of baffles to decrease temperature, decrease pressure, and ultimately decrease the noise coming out of a gasoline engine, or diesel engine for that matter. To reduce that noise, the same technology was applied to firearms and came out with what he called a firearm muffler. And his brand name for his suppressors, his original ones, he called the silencer, literally a brand name. Congress picked up on that and decided to include firearm silencers and mufflers within the National Firearms Act. And so to obtain a firearm, ever since 1934, and by the way, the tax has never increased since 1934. And I've said this before, but for those of you who are new to the Gun Guy Show, you know where the $200 came from? $200 was the price of a Thompson submachine gun in 1934. And so Congress decided to make it a 100% tax on a Tommy gun to basically discourage people from buying them. Secondly, to register them all. This is a system of national registration. So you have to register it. You have to pay your $200 tax. Well, the same is true of suppressors today. You have to pay $200. Same tax it was in 1934. Go through an additional background check, buy your suppressor. And historically, I mean, I have multiple suppressors. Once you start shooting with a suppressor, you become addicted very quickly. It's so much fun. It reduces recoil, muzzle rise, and certainly, by definition, decreases the noise a lot. Now, it doesn't silence anything. That's why the name is misleading in terms of calling it a silencer. It doesn't silence anything. It takes a gunshot, and it varies depending on barrel length and caliber and any number of other factors. But it takes in general terms, it takes a gunshot that's around 160 decibels and reduces it to about 130. Again, varying significantly by caliber, barrel length, and other factors. But 130 is still relatively loud. 130 is pretty close, for instance, to a chainsaw running. Can you shoot some firearms safely without hearing protection when they're suppressed? Yes. And that's a huge difference. Even if it's not hearing safe and you want to use hearing protection, still dramatically reduces muzzle flash, muzzle rise, recoil, and certainly sound. And so once you start shooting with them, it becomes addicting very, very quickly. A lot of us start taking our rifles and making them SBRs, making them short-barreled rifles. You have to be a little scientific about how much you reduce the barrel length on any particular rifle so as to not lose the velocity you need for that rifle to perform ballistically, the ammunition out of that rifle to perform the way you want it to. But you can balance those things, and I'm a big fan of a suppressed SBR. That's what I have hanging on the edge of the bed at my house for home defense, a suppressed SBR, because it makes sense for that purpose. So they're hugely popular, and they're selling more and more of them. ATF, actually, I hate to give ATF any credit, and I'm going to talk more about ATF later in the show, but the only thing I can think of that ATF's gotten right here recently is they've dramatically improved the process for submitting your application for a tax stamp, which is the terminology involved when you want to pay the tax and get permission from the ATF to buy your suppressor. And the last two suppressors I bought, both of which were in the last 2 or 3 months, I got approval within 4 or 5 days. Years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I bought my first suppressor, probably more than that, more like 10, it was a year, literally right at a year, 11 months plus, that it took ATF to approve that. ATF's gotten better in that process. So what are we looking at with this legislation? We've had previous legislation that would simply take suppressors off the NFA list, but treat them like a normal firearm. Now, that would be a dramatic improvement. The Hearing Protection Act of a couple of years ago would have done that. That means you go in, you pass the background check, and that's done by NICS, just like you're buying a gun, and that they call it the Instant Criminal Background Check System. You pass that background check, you walk out with your suppressor. That would be fabulous. But it's not nearly as fabulous as the so-called SHUSH Act, which I'm not going to be capable of saying without chuckling a little bit. The Silencers Help Us Save Hearing Act, or SHUSH. And what this would do would be completely deregulate suppressors altogether. And frankly, this is much more consistent with how suppressors are dealt with in the rest of the world. I mean, even in Europe, where guns generally are so much more severely regulated and limited in terms of the right to possess a firearm in parts of Europe, suppressors are treated more like any other accessory. They're treated like nothing different than an optic or a bipod or some other accessory you'd buy to put on your firearm. The firearm is the regulated part. The suppressor is just an accessory. That's what the SHUSH Act would do as well. And how fabulous would that be? And by the way, the price would come down. It's not sophisticated technology. It's a metal tube, often aluminum, sometimes titanium, sometimes other metals, with a series of baffles, an expansion chamber and a series of baffles, and a hole at the end. It's not complex technology. Some suppressors are better than others. Some are built better than others. Some are easier to clean and maintain than others. And I'm sure there'd still be a price range, but I'm sure the price would come down. You'd save the $200 and, in fact, be able to walk in and buy them like any other accessory. This is exactly what we need to do with suppressors. There's no argument for why a suppressor ought to be treated like a machine gun. There's a solid argument under the Second Amendment for why machine guns shouldn't be included within the NFA either. But to whatever degree that argument exists, it's a better argument for suppressors. And so I'm telling you, your representative, whoever it might be, here within the state of Indiana, need to be contacting your representative and tell them, man, you need to get behind the SHUSH Act. Join it as a co-author. Jump on it. Encourage the whatever committee it's assigned to hear that legislation. This is huge. And listen, suppressors can help hearing. They can protect your hearing. They dramatically make you a better neighbor when it comes to shoot. We legalized, this goes back 2013 to 2014, I want to say, Indiana legalized hunting with a suppressor. For years, it was illegal, even if you had your tax stamp, even if you'd gone through the federal registration process, paid your federal tax, Indiana made it illegal to hunt with a suppressor. What's the logic behind that? Makes no sense to me. Why? Makes you a better neighbor. It helps you not scare game away when you take a shot. It helps you not scare game away for the hunters that may be on the property next to you, half a mile away, or whatever distance it might be. It makes you a better neighbor. It protects your hearing. It allows you potentially, depending on firearm caliber, etc., to not have hearing protection on. As you're sitting there, what do you want to do? You want to hear the environment around you. You want to listen for whatever game you might be hunting. You want to have all your faculties, including your hearing. That allows you to have hearing protection not involved have a suppressor on your gun. I have no idea what the logic was originally for banning suppressors used in hunting in Indiana. We repealed that law several years ago. This would be huge. It would be great. Contact your U.S. representative. Say, get behind the Shush Act, introduced by Representative Michael Cloud from Texas and Senator Mike Lee from Utah. So we have support in the U.S. Senate as well. I'm excited about this. I'll keep you informed of it as it goes forward. Right now, we're at the bottom of the hour, a little past. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
The Commander-in-Chief no longer needs a diaper change. The Commander-in-Chief doesn't have to watch Matlock with pudding smeared on his face. We've got a Commander-in-Chief that no longer falls up and down the stairs multiple times. I'm excited for that. If anything else.
Let's see how long it takes before Pencil Neck Adam Schiff to file some impeachment charge.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
We put our lives on the line for our country. We braved the unknown. We did what we were told. And we lit up. Our cigarette packs were as valuable as the packs on our back. Maybe more. At one point, cigarettes were part of our daily ration. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. And boy, we were smoking 'em. Bumming a smoke was the norm. It was an escape from the reality of dirt, sweat, and forgetting how many days you were so far from home. Never had to worry so long as you had a light, and the smoking lamp was lit. If that was you then, get your lungs screened now. Surviving lung cancer starts with a scan. Learn more at screenyourlungs.org. And thank you for your service. This PSA was made possible by industry funding and guidance from lung cancer patient groups.
I'm Jane Fergus. 7 people are dead after a plane crashed into a Philadelphia neighborhood yesterday, just 30 seconds after takeoff.
And a lot of the jet fuel soaked a lot of the row homes in the area for about 3 to 4 blocks. Cars and homes were immediately set on fire.
Fox's Nate Foy, at least 19 people were injured. After getting trounced last November at the polls, the Democratic Party picked a new chair today. Minnesota Democratic Party leader Ken Martin.
When the Trump agenda fails Americans, which it most certainly will and already has, we have to be there with a legitimate alternative to this chaos.
Martin replaces Jamie Harrison of South Carolina after Republicans took control of the White House and both houses of Congress. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning. Owner Robert Kirby says the American Standard brand is the best built on the market today, but there's more to it than that.
American Standard does a great job with a lot of training for our employees and everything, so we do a lot of extra training. I think that helps better the product too.
See the difference in quality and training at KirbyHeating.com. Located in Pittsburgh, serving Hendricks and surrounding counties, Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
The future depends on teachers. Every day, teachers are shaping our tomorrows, starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who will make preventing pandemics their life's work, sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who will help combat climate change, and generating possibilities for a student who will be the first in their family to graduate college. It all starts with teachers who meet challenges with creativity, who reinvent education for the future, who work towards a school system that lifts up every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, and to enable the full potential of our students, our communities, and our country. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Hey y'all, I'm Blake Shelton. Being from Oklahoma, I know a thing or two about natural disasters. Tornadoes are common where I'm from and have affected my life and the lives of people I care about. No matter where you live, be aware of the dangers in your area and have a plan. You can create an emergency kit, come up with an evacuation plan, and know where to seek shelter. You never know when a disaster may hit. These simple steps can help save a life. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And we got a ruling out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. This is the federal circuit that hears appeals from courts, and I think it's Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi are the three states. A lot of their cases come out of Texas. And we got a ruling out of the Fifth Circuit just on Thursday, and this is a big one. Now, as of this moment, it only affects people that live in those states that are within the Fifth Circuit, Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So this has no effect in Indiana quite yet, but we've seen several other cases come out of the Fifth Circuit that eventually wind up at the Supreme Court. And once the Supreme Court issues a ruling on these issues, well, then now that has nationwide effect, obviously, once SCOTUS weighs in. But this one is on an issue that's gotten a lot of attention from a lot of people, me included, and that is that federal law currently prohibits anyone who's less than 21 years old from buying a handgun at a dealer. So if you're 18, 19, or 20, you can buy a handgun or a long gun, rifle or shotgun, from a private individual. You can go into a gun shop and buy a long gun, rifle or shotgun, from the gun shop. But you can't buy a handgun from a gun shop. You have to be 21 to buy a handgun from a dealer, from a licensed dealer, what we call a FFL, or Federal Firearms Licensee. And there's a lot of inconsistency, maybe what a better word would be incongruity, about the way this law comes together. For instance, in Indiana, how old do you have to be to carry a handgun under constitutional carry? You have to be 18. How old do you have to be to get your license to carry a handgun? Well, the state of Indiana says, yes, you are hereby licensed to carry a handgun. Everywhere it's legal to carry a handgun, 18. So you can get your license to carry. The state of Indiana says, yes, you young man, you young lady, you are absolutely legally entitled to carry a gun. Here's your license, but you can't walk into a dealer and buy a handgun. That gun that the state of Indiana says is lawful for you to carry. Does that make any sense to you? And a lot of us have been predicting since the Bruen decision, and that's a Supreme Court decision I talk about here a lot. I talk about a lot here on the Gun Guy Show because it finally established the specific test that courts are supposed to use to determine whether a gun control law is constitutional or not under the Second Amendment. And it's the text, history, and tradition test. So they say a court is supposed to say, what is the text of the amendment, in this case the Second Amendment, what does it say? What does it mean? Well, we know exactly what the Second Amendment says. We know exactly what it means from prior decisions, including the Heller decision, going all the way back in 2008, the McDonald decision from 2010, that tells us what firearms are covered, what arms generally are covered and protected. what the extent of the right is. Now, I'm sure there'll be additional opinions that interpret that. And for instance, the Bruen case said that the right to carry a handgun for self-protection outside the home is a right covered by the Second Amendment. But it also defined the test for constitutionality. And text is the first step. History and tradition. History and tradition means that a court in analyzing whether a law is constitutional is supposed to look at how the right has been regulated, how, in this case, the Second Amendment has been regulated since the time of the founding, with a focus on the time of the founding. And the idea there is that when the founders talked about the right to keep and bear arms that shall not be infringed, as stated in the Second Amendment, what did they mean by the right to keep and bear arms? Well, they meant that right consistent with how it was being regulated at the time. That's the logic of that analysis. So that if things were thought to be okay and appropriate at the time the founders wrote those words, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, then consistent regulations today are also constitutional. And that's why, by the way, when you see out there on social media and people, I get lectured on this all the time on Second Amendment issues. People will say, well, shall not be infringed. What's confusing about that? All gun laws are unconstitutional. And listen, there's a solid argument for why that's true and why all gun laws are a restriction on the right to keep and bear arms and ought to be constitutional. The problem is the Supreme Court has told us specifically that all gun laws are not unconstitutional. And in fact, gun laws, consistent with those laws that were in place at the time of the founding, are specifically constitutional. So you may disagree with that. I may disagree with that. But it doesn't change it when we go out and rant and rave on social media, or you call me on call and say, why don't you understand? All gun laws are unconstitutional. You must be a lousy lawyer if you don't understand that all gun laws are unconstitutional. Well, there's an argument for why they all are. The problem is the Supreme Court has rejected that argument and said laws consistent with those laws in place at the time of the founding are constitutional. So the question here then, looking at the law saying you have to be 21 to buy a pistol, is that kind of a regulation consistent with how Second Amendment rights were being regulated at the time of the founding? And there's some argument out there and analysis under the Bruen case that you also look at the time of the passing of the 14th Amendment, which makes the Bill of Rights applicable to the states. And that was passed, I want to say, in 1868. Somebody correct me if that's wrong. Maybe 1865. I want to say 1868. That the 14th Amendment was passed. So you look at both those things. Were there laws in place in those timeframes, specifically looking at the time of the founding as a priority, that says that you have to be 21 to possess a firearm or a handgun specifically? How old did you have to be a member of the militia? At the time the militias were being put together in anticipation of conflict with the British, or even predating that in 1775 at the time of Lexington and Concord. How old do you have to be to join the militia? There's no argument you had to be 21. In fact, historical documents say that the age they were looking at was 17. 17 to 45 is the age range that appears in a lot of historical documents. 17. So if you could serve in your militia and be armed by, in this case, your colony, your local government, to serve in your local militia, how on God's earth is it consistent with that form of regulation to have to be 21 to buy a handgun here in modern times? It's not consistent. And that's exactly why the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals found it to be unconstitutional. It's not consistent with how firearms have been regulated generally in this country, including look at the time of the founding. We've blown past the 3/4 hour. We're going to take a break. We'll be back for a brief segment. We'll come back. I want to talk about a little bit more about this particular law and why I wholeheartedly agree with the Fifth Circuit's decision. But But I also want to talk about some of the reaction to this, including a discussion I had on social media, which I thought was very interesting here this afternoon. That and much more. Plus, I want to take your calls. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393. You think 18-year-olds shouldn't be able to buy a handgun? Give us a call. Tell us your argument. You think they should? Hey, give us a call. Any other issue you want to talk about, 317-239-9393. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
This is a bill that prohibits minors under 16 from using social media without parental permission.
This is an example of government trying to resolve a problem that they have no business being in, which is how you parent your kid. If you want your kid to be on social media, that's your right as a parent. You dictate that.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Rock Op Defense Solutions. You know, Rock Op Defense Solutions is a high-end fighting rifle manufacturer and retailer located right here in central Indiana, located in Avon. These folks have some of the nicest fighting rifles you're going to find. We're talking about AR platform rifles that are as high-end, as well-built as you're going to find anywhere in the country. They wanted to make sure that Hoosiers, as well as anyone else across the country, but specifically Hoosiers, would have the opportunity to buy high-end rifles as good as anywhere from a manufacturer located right here at home. I'm a huge fan. I have my Rod 15 from Rock Op Defense. Completely love it, and it's my go-to rifle. I've got mine in a short-barreled rifle configuration, also put a suppressor on it, and the folks at Rock Op Defense Solutions helped me with every phase of that. I bought my rifle with a full-length barrel. I decided I wanted to SBR it. I took it right back there. They helped me with that modification, make sure my gas system was still going to work as I wanted it to with a shorter barrel, helped me with accessories, including my optic. I put a beautiful ACOG on it, which is exactly what I wanted. They helped me with all of that, and they can help you as well. Check them out at rock-opdefense.com. You want to see their rifles? They're located at Fort Liberty Firearms. They're in Avon. In fact, Rock Op Defense Solutions, their shop is right there on the other side of the building from Fort Liberty Firearms in Avon, so they can demo their rifles. You can check them out, pick one up, order one exactly to your specifications. You can do all that there at Rock Op Defense Solutions. Check them out, again, at rock-opdefense.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Jewelry Gram, it's your friends at Shane Company here to remind you that Valentine's Day is Friday, February 14th. It's the most romantic day of the year to give and get fine jewelry. We have expertly crafted gifts for every type of sweetheart. For the one, we'll help you propose with the Dream Engagement Ring. Come see our wide selection of hand-picked natural and lab-grown diamonds in all shapes and sizes, in stock and ready to compare side by side right here in our store. Or maybe you'll fall in love with the natural, colorful gemstone. At Shane Company, we're known for our sapphires in every color of the rainbow. We have options for every style and budget. Get creative and design a custom necklace with meaningful charms, including 14-karat gold letters, engravable hearts, and birthstones. Our mother-of-pearl heart-shaped collection makes a perfect gift that's ready to give. At Shane Company, love is always in the air with our unmatched free lifetime warranty, everyday competitive prices, and no-pressure shopping experience. Come see us in-store and at shaneco.com. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. The best dealers in the region will be at the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
Hi, this is Denny Smith for Zero Res, and when was the last time you gave your carpets some love? Now listen, they're the largest air filter in your home, and unless those carpets are cleaned on a regular basis, the stuff that's in the fibers can be downright scary. There's a good chance you're breathing unhealthy levels of germs and dirt and dander and bacteria that just keep recirculating again and again. Well, here's some really good news. Zero Res has a February special of 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting at $119, plus a 4th room clean free and $75 off air duct cleaning. And with their Gotta Love It guarantee, they're going to make sure your investment with them is a great experience. The ZeroRes service is easy to line up, and you can go online at ZeroResIndy.com to do some scheduling at your convenience. Mention WIBC, get 3 rooms cleaned starting at $119, plus a 4th room cleaned for free and $75 off air duct cleaning too. It's ZeroRes. Call 317-388-5141 or book things online at ZeroResIndy.com.
You want to listen all day to WIBC, but you don't always have time. Don't worry. There's a podcast for that. The WIBC Mashup. Daily highlights from your favorite hosts, Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, and Hammer and Nigel. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. We've got a bit of a short segment here at the top of the hour, but I'm particularly passionate about this issue. That is whether 18 to 20-year-olds should be able to go into a gun store and buy a handgun. Because, listen, whether you agree with this or not, the simple truth, and it's been the truth for generations in this country, is if you're at least 18, you can enlist in the military. For many years in this country, you could be drafted, be brought in to serve your military, to serve your country, to carry a firearm, including today. You can carry an M4, select fire, capable of automatic fire, multi-burst fire. You can drive a tank. You can operate an artillery unit. You can put yourself in harm's way for your country, but you can't come home and buy a handgun? No, that's not okay. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online.
Uh-huh.
I read that black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Jackson Hewitt makes taxes feel like a yacht rock song.
Breeze, give me my biggest tax refund, please. You, me, and a lifetime accuracy guarantee.
And now get $100 just to try Jackson Hewitt. Does your tax person do that?
Say goodbye to that no guarantee tax guy.
Ready to sail through tax season? Go to Jackson Hewitt and you'll be... Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Hi, I'm Charlie Comer from Comer & Cross Premium Garage Floor Coatings. If your garage floor looks bad with stains, cracks, and pits, it makes your entire garage look bad. And a bad epoxy job or chipping paint makes your garage or basement look worse. With one quick call to 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, I can save you $1,000 on a new Comer & Cross garage floor or basement floor during our winter sale. A Comer & Cross concrete floor coating is the gold standard. Guaranteed. A Comer & Cross garage floor won't chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or paint ever. What's the Comer & Cross difference? We make it so easy. We move your stuff out for you. We fix the cracks and pits perfectly. And one day, you will love your gleaming, new Comer & Cross garage floor or basement floor just in time for spring. Call us right now for $1,000 in savings during our winter sale. Operators are standing by now at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. Or go to COMERcross.com.
Meals from those years are hard to forget. It was all white bread and whole milk, hamburger casseroles and quiche Lorraines, all with a side of cigarettes. We ate salads as desserts. We knew a party was classy if it had a cheese log, and we never missed an after-dinner smoke. It didn't matter if we were in our dining rooms, a burger joint, or the ritziest of restaurants. There'd be an ashtray on every table, and that very particular flavor in every meal. We smoked for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's amazing that our food could taste like anything else. If that was you then, get your lungs screened now. Surviving lung cancer starts with a scan. Learn more at screenyourlungs.org. This PSA was made possible by industry funding and guidance from lung cancer patient groups.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Fergus, Fox News. A medical transport jet slammed into a Philadelphia neighborhood just moments after takeoff, killing all on board. Fox's Nate Foy reports from Philadelphia.
The entire flight lasting 30 seconds about. The plane took off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport, crashed into a crowded neighborhood, and a lot of the jet fuel soaked a lot of the row homes in the area for about 3 to 4 blocks. Cars and homes were immediately set on fire, and firefighters went through and thankfully were able to successfully pull a lot of people out of those homes. Investigators are working to determine if this was a mistake by the pilot, a mechanical issue, or possibly something else.
The company that runs the medical flights had another fatal crash in 2023 that killed 5 people in Mexico. Meanwhile, the investigation continues into the midair collision in Washington, D.C. between a passenger plane and an Army helicopter Wednesday night. 67 people were killed, and now both black boxes have been recovered. Fox's Grady Trimble reports from Arlington, Virginia.
The black box from the helicopter in particular will be critical in this investigation, because if that helicopter was in fact flying higher than it should have been, the investigators will be able to use that black box to tell. The NTSB is not responding to President Trump's comments that DEI hiring of air traffic controllers during the Biden administration played a role in the crash, but it does tell us it's interviewing the air traffic controllers who were working at the time of Wednesday's midair collision. The NTSB has begun removing debris from the Potomac River.
America's listening to Fox News.
Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Ben Domenech, Fox News contributor and editor of the Transom.com daily newsletter, and I'm inviting you to join a conversation every week with the smartest thinkers out there about the issues Americans face and where we're going as a nation. This show will feature deep dive interviews with newsmakers and some of your favorite Fox News analysts. I hope you'll join me as we dive into the fray. It's the Ben Domenech Podcast.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you download podcasts.
An American citizen among the 3 hostages Hamas released today.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
They say it started at a bar. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. Fishers police say a Brazil, Indiana man has been arrested after he fired shots into a car while someone was inside. Ronald Leach apparently fired the shots on Exit 5 Parkway early Saturday morning. Officers soon stopped his car, at which point he was arrested. Prior to this, they believe he had gotten into an incident at a local bar, so he had been asked to leave. This sparked an argument with an employee whose car was the one shot Saturday morning. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But if you were approaching retirement, one Purdue instructor has some tips on how you can maximize your pension. Associate Professor of Finance Deniz Yavuz says pension plans often come with a list of eligibility requirements.
You have to pay attention to how long you have to work to get benefits out of plan, how your pension payments determined based on your retirement age and how many years you worked.
He also says plans do not often account for inflation. If yours does not, he recommends creating portfolios and investing in protected bonds. The Pacers may have had a questionable start to their season, but seemed to get into more of a groove in January. Former Colts punter Pat McAfee recently spoke to Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton on the Pat McAfee Show when he said,
"This is the best team in the NBA, best record in January. They're getting hot at the right time, Cole."
Get Pacers tickets at nba.com/Pacers. On the level, on the go, and on WYBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
Tonight, mostly cloudy, some spotty areas of drizzle in the early morning hours. Low temperatures in the low to mid 30s. For Sunday, Groundhog Day, mostly cloudy with winds gusting up to 25 miles an hour. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Discussing end-of-life matters can be uncomfortable, but it's also necessary to ensure that loved ones' wishes are well known ahead of time. This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joy's House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. Up next, I'll share suggestions to help ease anxiety surrounding the talk.
Cardon and Associates offers the finest senior living options tailored to your loved one's needs. Reservations are now being accepted for new apartments at Copper Trace in Westfield. Visit cardon.com.
Direct, open, and honest conversation is the best way to discuss end-of-life wishes. Knowing your loved one's preferred treatments and desired arrangements will ready everyone for when the time comes. Also helpful, creating a will or trust to ensure assets are distributed accordingly. And consider an end-of-life doula to assist your family during the process. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joy's House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access a library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. And so, why is this an important issue to me? And that is, if you're just joining us, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and this doesn't affect us here in Indiana quite yet, but the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the federal law that says you have to be 21 to buy a handgun from a dealer, that law is unconstitutional, that it's not consistent with the history and tradition of the regulation of Second Amendment rights in this country. You go back to the time of the founding, were there any laws in place at the time that restricted the rights of people 18, 19, and 20 from possessing firearms? And the obvious answer to that is no, there were not. And in fact, you could join the local militia at 17. In fact, if you look at what is affectionately known as the Dick Act, and named after the senator who proposed it back when, passed in 1903, it talks about the establishment of the National Guard, essentially, but then also the unorganized militia, quote unquote, which is essentially the general population, which is consistent with the Supreme Court's interpretation of the term a well-organized militia. And that consists of the general population of people ages 17 to 45. Now, that was 1903. That's not the time of the founding, but it's certainly consistent with the view of ages at which people in this country can appropriately own, in fact, carry firearms, and not only carry firearms, but carry firearms in the service of their country. Also consistent with the idea that 18-year-olds can go into the military. And it is really a problem for me. Now, listen, if you listen to the Gun Guy Show, you've heard me say this many times, and you know this already. I never served in the military. Awful lot of my friends have, family members, and I respect those people immeasurably. I never served. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people that have, particularly the people that have put themselves in harm's way, including those who went into the military as soon as they possibly could at age 18. And it's one issue to say, you know what, people can serve in the military at 18. It's another to say that this country will put those same people, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, in harm's way. And with a volunteer military, these people have volunteered to go do this, to put their lives on the line for their country, to serve their country, and yes, to carry a weapon in the process. And there are a lot of different jobs in the military. Not all of them involve carrying an M4, but a lot of them do. A lot of my friends tell me they're 11 Bravo, right? Infantry, carrying a rifle. You can do that at 18. I don't know how any legislator, how a person who's responsible for passing and or amending laws in this country, and for that matter, any judge responsible for interpreting the laws of this country, can say that it's consistent with the views of the founders and the history and tradition of regulating gun rights in this country to say that you can carry not only a handgun, but a rifle, a select fire rifle, man a .50 caliber machine gun, mounted to a military vehicle, drive a tank, operate an artillery unit, fly a drone, and do all the other jobs involving weaponry and sophisticated weaponry in the service of your country, during which you might very well lose your own life and then not be able to come home and fully exercise Second Amendment rights within the borders of your own country. No, absolutely not. Not okay with that. I've never been okay with that. And people say, well, Guy, we're just talking about handguns. I don't care. If it's a Second Amendment right, there shouldn't be any restrictions on your ability to exercise that right. None. Zero. Not simply because you're 18 to 20 years old. Never. No. You can serve your country and put yourself in harm's way. You have unfettered Second Amendment rights consistent with any other citizen of this country. And I had an interesting back and forth. And I got the impression that this person took offense at some point. And I might have gotten a little aggressive in the discussion. It was respectful on both sides, which I appreciated. But I posted this Fifth Circuit decision on social media talking about how the Fifth Circuit had determined that the age restriction of having to be 21 to buy a handgun was unconstitutional. And a person, and I looked at her profile, and by all accounts, for everything I could tell, a solid person, a nice person, and a mental health professional, posted, as a mental health professional, I really worry about making sure the frontal cortex development is there. We have a lot of young men solving issues with weapons. Well, let's take the second half of that first. Do we have a lot of young men solving issues with weapons? Yes. Is that an incredibly huge problem in this country? Yes. I've talked about it here a lot. I've talked about it with people like Reverend Charles Harrison from the 10-Point Coalition right here in this studio, about we have a culture where too many people, engaged in some kind of a conflict where you and I mean, being the generation I came from, there were certain conflicts you had to resolve with your fists, starting at a very young age. and there are times that we had to do that, and you either learned how to fight or you learned how to shut up and not make people mad, or middle ground, you learned how to duck and run. but you learned one of those things. And in society, I got to tell you, it was a better place when you learned respect, you learned how to keep your mouth shut, or you learned how to fight, or some combination of all three. That's how I was raised. And there's a reason I got a very crooked, swollen nose that I've carried around since my teen years, because apparently I wasn't very good at ducking on occasion. But that's how we were raised. And there is a fundamental cultural difference that exists today, where now, rather than put somebody on their butt, you pull out a gun and shoot and kill them. Is that a problem? Yes. Does that have anything to do with the issue we're talking about here, which is the law being constitutional or unconstitutional that limits the ability of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to carry firearms? I submit to you, no. I submit to you, no way. Notwithstanding, it's an absolutely truthful statement to say we have a lot of young men solving their issues with weapons. Yes, fundamentally that's true. But that exists under the law that exists today, that you can't buy a handgun in a store until you're 21. So that issue exists today. It exists in spite of that statutory limitation on how old you have to be to buy a gun in a store. Not only that, but a lot of the people we're talking about here, that is, quote-unquote, young men solving their issues with weapons, are doing that at substantially younger ages than 18. How many stories have you seen in the media right here in Indianapolis of people 13, 14, 15 years old being caught with guns, being suspects in shootings, being victims of shootings where there's a shootout on the street, in a neighborhood, between cars? The law limiting your ability to buy a gun in a gun store to 21 today, it clearly isn't having much of an effect, because people that have decided to illegally carry guns, because you also can't carry a gun in an age less than 18. You can't get your license to carry. You can't carry under constitutional carry. And we have 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds getting caught with guns left and right in this country. In addition, there are people that have been arrested, convicted of serious crimes at age 18, 19, and 20. They're felons. They're still getting caught with guns left and right. And the law that prevents felons from carrying guns is having no effect. The law that restricts people to age 21 to buy a gun in a store has no effect. So this idea that we shouldn't set aside a law as unconstitutional that keeps law-abiding, sane, responsible citizens who are of military age, could serve their country in the military, that we should deprive them of their constitutional right to buy a handgun, that we should preserve that law because, quote, a lot of young men are solving their issues with weapons? I'm sorry, you can't get there from here. There's simply no valid connection between those two things. Because people that are inclined to solve their problems with weapons, that is, to shoot someone over a silly argument, to engage in criminal activity, to commit serious crimes, to commit the very serious crime, if not the most serious crime of murder, are not going to be swayed in any way. They're not going to be limited in any way by the kind of laws we're talking about here. All you're doing is taking law-abiding citizens and depriving them of a right they fundamentally ought to have, that they've earned. And that's why I'll seriously oppose this law. That's why I will advocate for this to become the law of the land, either through repealing the law that requires a 21-year-old minimum age to buy a handgun in a store, or for ultimately SCOTUS to pick up on and rule consistently with how the Fifth Circuit has done just this week on Thursday, that the law preventing 18, 19, and 20-year-olds from buying a handgun in a store is unconstitutional as violating the Second Amendment. That is fundamentally true. It is fundamentally true. I'm a little surprised it's taken us this long to get that ruling, but I think it'll hold up. And I think it'll hold up going forward. Right now, we're taking a break. Give us a call. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393. 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hear the news.
Mid-air collision Wednesday night near Washington, D.C. Recovered more than half the bodies.
Another update is just minutes away.
Woman from Indiana on board the plane that collided with the helicopter.
A recent Indiana University graduate.
On the level.
April Brown, Eric Reeves, Stephanie Reeves, and Anthony Strahl. Child exploitation. From Greenfield, child and animal sex abuse ring. Graphic images and videos.
On the go.
Nice weekend. Temperatures in the mid-50s.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class, Essentials of Indiana Gun Law, is coming up again, this time in Avon. It's going to be Saturday, March 15th from 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. This is 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. If you own a gun, if you have a gun in your home for defense, and certainly if you carry a gun, you need to know how to stay on the right side of the law, and that's exactly what this course is designed to do. We'd love to see you there. You can sign up right online. Again, it's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. Go to tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
The new year means new deals at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. This is where you get your next Ford car, truck, SUV, EV, or fleet vehicle. Elevate your journey right now with the new 2024 Ford Expedition Platinums. Save over $15,000 off MSRP. Equipped with a high-output 3.5-liter EcoBoost, it delivers up to 400 horsepower for commanding performance. And with the premium leather-trimmed interior and wood accents, you're sure to enjoy your time on the road. Need something a little smaller but still enough room? Check out the new 2024 Ford Edge SE. Save over $6,500 off MSRP. You got to check out everything going on at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. Get more to your door. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver it directly to you. Visit the showroom, 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at andymoreford.com. That's Andy Moore, M-O-H-R. I love Andy. andymoreford.com.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man, high five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Up top, bike shop.
Yeah. It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messethorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years!
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo!
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Planning to propose this Valentine's Day? Shane Company has your back. Our easy process to create your dream engagement ring is rock solid. 1, pick your ring setting. 2, choose your center stone. 3, personalize it. With our wide selection of beautiful settings and hand-picked diamonds and gemstones, all at competitive prices, your ring will be as unique as your love story. We'll hand-set your ring in our jeweler's workshop right here in our store and protect it with our free lifetime warranty. Walk in with a dream, walk out with the ring that will take their breath away. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
You can trust your flush to us. Howald Plumbers are the best in the business. Water heaters, leaky faucets or toilets, sump pumps, drain lines. Howald Plumbers keep water flowing. Howald Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing, where coming home never felt so good.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Garage door problems? Call today for service today. Garage Doors of Indianapolis services all makes of garage doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call today for service today. 875-4577. Call today for service today. Get it fixed right now. Call Garage Doors of Indianapolis at 875-4577 or visit doorstoday.com.
In the morning, call 875-4577.
Service today.
Today.
Indy Humane, committed to helping Central Indiana's pets in need since 1905. Find your new best friend today. IndyHumane.org. Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit IndyHumane.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I want to talk a little bit more about this interaction I had on social media because it was interesting to me, and I think it raises some important issues. And that is how to address this issue, for instance, with school shootings. Because my posting of the fact that the Fifth Circuit had found unconstitutional the requirement you be 21 to buy a handgun in a store, prompted a discussion between me and, again, somebody who appears to be a very nice person, and I have no personal animosity toward her whatsoever. But you can see the discussion. You go to my Facebook, it's just at Guy Relford. You can see that I posted about this decision. You can see the whole discussion. And it was respectful. I might have inspired a little irritation at one point or another. But a person said, as a mental health professional, they were concerned with, younger people carrying guns because they wanted to make sure that they were fully developed from a cognitive standpoint. Particularly, you hear this a lot, the frontal cortex development is there. That younger people may not have developed the judgment that they need. And listen, and then went on to talk about the main problem in that, to that point that she was trying to address was school shootings. And that struck me as a little bit ironic because it started off, as a mental health care professional. And listen, I have a psychology degree. I was a double major in political science and psychology, so I ended up with a psychology degree, which just means I know enough to be dangerous about psychology. A Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology is just that. It means you might have some superficial knowledge, and it ends there. So I don't profess any great knowledge, but it gives me maybe a slight bit of insight, but it also gives me a tremendous amount of respect for people in the mental health field at the same time. And this is where I took the discussion, is that rather than trying to restrict the constitutional rights of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, and a lot of the school shooters we see are substantially younger than that, so this by definition would be irrelevant. But even within that I really suggested that the mental health field itself take a hard look at its own industry, to look at how they are contributing to, potentially, or certainly failing to mitigate the problem that we have with mass shootings generally and school shootings specifically. And I'm not trying to point fingers here. That's not my point. But I wanted to raise, I think, what is a very important issue, which is the number of mass shooters we see, and particularly school shooters. It's not limited to school shooters. It's absolutely true. For instance, the Colorado theater shooting that was so horrific, killed a large number of people during an airing of I think it was Batman the Black Knight. But the very significant percentage of these mass shooters, including school shooters, who are on psychotropic drugs prescribed to them by, yes, members of the mental health field, many of which have known and identified side effects of inclinations toward violence, of homicidal tendencies, of inducing rage. And we've also seen a significant number of school shooters, or mass shooters generally, school shooters specifically, who have also gone through some form of quote-unquote gender reassignment surgery and or medication. Typically, they go together. And one of those happened recently in Nashville. And it's interesting because this person's diary was suppressed, never been made public, but went and shot up a private religion-oriented school who was trans. And listen, this isn't a rant against trans people. That's not on my agenda. I don't have that in my heart. My point is, when you go through a surgery, like gender reassignment surgery, or you start taking medication to change you in terms of your hormonal balances, it doesn't take a PhD in psychiatry or an MD psychiatrist to understand that those can have fundamental, significant psychiatric effects on people, emotional effects. Hormonal effects, by definition, create psychological effects and mood swings. That is fundamentally true. And when we see teenagers or preteens having problems, having developmental problems, having problems in school, having emotional problems, and all we do is pump them up full of drugs because that's the easiest solution, which, frankly, the mental health industry does far too often. It's the knee-jerk reaction. Oh, you're having emotional problems? Well, let's just get you on a prescription. And listen, are there valuable medications and prescriptions? Yes, of course, I'm sure. And a lot of people with psychiatric problems are benefited tremendously by being treated. I'm the first one to appreciate it and admit it. But how many of these school shooters and mass shooters do we see pumped up on psychotropic drugs? I'll never forget the look in the eye of the shooter from Aurora, Colorado, from the theater shooting. That person didn't even look like they were present mentally, psychologically. They were in a whole nother world. And it's because they were drugged up. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's what we're talking about. And we need to take a hard look at that. The fact that there's a mental health crisis in this country and that has dramatically worsened in the last generation. Anyone who doesn't think that contributes to the increase in mass shootings and school shootings is simply misleading themselves. We've always had guns. And how many people of my generation do you hear say, you've heard it a million times? Well, I went to high school and we had shotguns and rifles in the rack in the back window of our pickup truck. Well, we did. And we didn't have school shootings. We had guns. Guns have always been around. You know what we didn't have? We didn't have drugged out kids. Well, we had drugged out kids, but that was generally just smoking pot. And the occasional person that started, messing around with something more serious. We didn't have kids being prescribed drugs for mental health issues that are walking around like zombies because of drugs that their doctor prescribed to them. Are those drugs overused? Lay opinion only. No expert foundation whatsoever. Of course they are. Is our default position to pump kids up full of drugs? Yes. Do I think that contributes to violence? Yes. Do I think it contributes specifically to mass shootings, school shootings generally? Absolutely it does. And that's why I had a bit of a problem being lectured by a member of the quote-unquote mental health field about how we need to pass laws or support laws like restricting the rights of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds because of mental health concerns. Mental health concerns ought to be addressed much better than they are today by the mental health industry. And the response I got, interestingly enough, and again, I'm not picking on this poor lady. I told her I was going to talk about this. I invited her to call in, which invitation holds up. And I don't want to sound like I'm picking on her. I'm not going to name her by name or anything like that. Because she, again, professional, polite, respectful conversation that we had. But when I started pointing out limitations and problems, if not exacerbation of the problem by the mental health industry, the response came back was, well, that we don't have nearly enough resources. And there are not enough beds to treat people that have serious psychological injuries. There are not enough clinics and doctors available to treat these people. So it's a consistent problem of underfunding and under-resource. Well, then why don't we focus on those issues? If there are kids out there with mental health problems, it's one thing to pump them up full of drugs and have it exacerbate the problem. It's a whole separate issue for their issues to go untreated or be insufficiently treated because we don't have the resources to treat them or help them. Why don't we focus on those issues? You know why those issues are hard? Dealing with mental health issues, including the funding, the resources necessary to get people the help they need, those issues are hard. To identify those people, get them the help they need, the funding issues, the budget issues, those things are hard. You know what's easy? Let's just pass a law that restricts constitutional rights of law-abiding, sane, stable people. And at one point, it came back to me, well, I don't know, this is a much broader issue than mental health. I'm saying, hold on. Do you think sane, stable people walk into a school and start murdering innocent people? Murdering innocent school kids? You walk into an elementary school and start shooting first and second graders? Does a sane, stable person do that? Of course not. By definition, you have to have a psychological problem to be convinced that that's an okay thing to do, that that's something you want to go do. Outside the very rare circumstance that we haven't even seen in this country in a generation of this something being purely ideological, like a terrorist who decides to commit a terrorist act because it's consistent with their ideology. Well, they may be a fanatic of some kind, motivated by political, ideological, or even religious zealotry. That's one issue. But that's not what we see in this country. We see people that are clearly mentally imbalanced, motivated by who knows what, to walk into a school and start murdering people. By definition, that's a mental health issue. Normal, sane, stable people don't do that. So, of course, it's an issue, but it's the harder one to address. It's easy to pass a law. It's easy to restrict the constitutional rights of stable, law-abiding citizens. It's hard to address an issue like a mental health crisis in this country. And so politicians and others out there want to go the easy route, that's to restrict our rights, not address the root cause of the problem. And that's something I'm going to stand up and address. I'll stand up and call out at every opportunity. I did that on social media today. I hope I was polite and respectful in doing so, but it's something that I thought warranted some additional discussion. That's why I bring it up here today. We haven't got, I don't think, any calls here. This is incredibly rare. So join the discussion, 317-239-9393. Questions, comments? We'll be back in just a moment. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The administration is taking shape.
I, Marco Rubio. I, Marco Rubio.
Y un gran honor y le doy las gracias al presidente Trump. I just said I saved a bunch of money by switching to Geico. That's what I said. So.
Hearings and votes continue.
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine.
Confirmations are underway.
The vice president votes in the affirmative, and the nomination is confirmed.
Follow the first 100 days on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
My name is Juanita Segura, and I was diagnosed in November of 2014 with non-small cell lung cancer. The first time I heard about biomarker testing was actually my husband. He just started researching about lung cancer.
And I found out about biomarker testing, and I'm like, why not? Let's try it.
I'm Dr. Jorge Gomez, thoracic medical oncologist at the Mount Sinai Hospital. Comprehensive biomarker testing is looking for either substances in the blood or mutations in some of the genes of the cancer cells that can help us identify special types of lung cancer that can be treated with what we call targeted therapies.
Letting my children know brought all of us a sense of hope. To give them hope that mom is going to be around to see you grow up. And I promised them that.
Ask your doctor about how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you and your doctor decide on the best treatment for you. Visit noonemiss.org for more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation.
Daisy was abandoned by her family and placed in foster care at 15 years old. Her life was full of uncertainty. She thought she'd never have a permanent place to call home.
Before I was adopted, I felt like I wasn't enough. I had this hole in my heart, and I never knew what I needed to patch that hole. But when my mom asked to adopt me, that hole was closed. It feels so normal now to say that I'm a part of this family. I am surrounded by love. I feel safe. And that hole inside of me is gone. I am whole. I'm finally enough just as I am.
The Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption is changing the lives of teenagers at risk of aging out of foster care. Like Daisy, every child deserves a permanent, loving home. You can help. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. In Philadelphia, they're counting the casualties from last night's crash of a medical transport plane.
6 of those people were on the medical transport plane. Another person died who was in their car. As for injuries, 19 people left injured from the crash, but we're told that number could also change.
Fox's CB Cotton, the plane set fire to houses and cars below. Workers are inspecting houses for structural damage. The plane was carrying a girl who had just come through a life-saving medical procedure. Today, President Trump went ahead with economic retaliation against other nations.
President Trump is making good on long-threatened tariffs, imposing 25% tariffs on products from Mexico and Canada and 10% tariffs on imports from China.
Fox's Jared Halpern. America is listening to Fox News.
Emmer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Every child deserves the best teachers, facilities, and academic programs to set them up for success both now and in the future. At Milton Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania, we make that a reality for children from qualifying families who are looking for greater opportunities. Milton Hershey School enrolls students from pre-K through 12th grade from across the United States to live and learn on a beautiful state-of-the-art campus with all costs covered. Students who are accepted to Milton Hershey School have access to a top-tier education, along with health care, meals, housing, and fully funded career pathways to pursue whatever they're passionate about, from performing arts to internships to coding. Students can even accrue up to $95,000 to continue their education after high school, thanks to the generosity of chocolatier Milton Hershey and his wife, Catherine. Are you looking to set your child up for success or know a child who could benefit from Milton Hershey School? Learn more at mhskids.org/admissions.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And I'll tell you what, we've gotten a couple of calls. Let's go to the phone lines. And our pal Buzz has called. Buzz, welcome back to The Gun Guy Show.
How you doing, Guy?
Good, man. What you got?
Okay, the deafening silence just proves that this is an extremely touchy subject. But look at all the laws that have been passed that have not made any effect in the shootings. And look at how much mental health problems that have been dealt with drugs that mess these kids up worse. It's the same thing on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, Buzz, you're preaching to the choir on that, pal, and I think you're exactly right. The idea that passing a law is going to somehow impact someone who's homicidal and or has severe psychiatric problems, causing them to be homicidal. They're suddenly going to go, oh, wait, what? I may get in trouble. My plan is to go murder as many people as possible and then die in a shootout with the police or eat a bullet, from my own gun, which is what a lot of these people do. That's my plan. My plan is to murder as many people as possible and then commit suicide or to die in a shootout with police. That's my plan. I'm totally okay with that. But wait, there's a new law in the books where I might, get arrested and prosecuted? I'm going to go commit mass murder. Why do I care about this one additional law? It makes no sense. And people say, oh, well, hold on, Guy. We're talking about being able to buy a gun from a dealer. So we'll just say, well, you can't go in and buy a gun from a dealer, then they won't commit a crime. My goodness. What guns get blamed whenever there's a mass shooting, whether a rifle was involved or not? What do we see after every mass shooting? It's, well, we have to ban the AR-15. We need to ban assault rifles. It's crazy to me. There'll be a mass shooting involving handguns. And they still come out with the same, we have to ban the AR-15. Well, hold on. It's ridiculous to blame any particular firearm. But you want to go that route? Let's talk about that. How old do you have to be to go into a gun store and buy an AR-15? 18. So you really think a law that says you got to be 18 to buy a handgun is going to somehow restrict, prevent, limit school shooting? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Plus, the number of illegal guns available out on the street it's the worst it's ever been. Do I think we should absolutely crack down on people illegally selling guns on the street? Of course we should. Absolutely. Enforce existing law is what we always should be talking about when it comes to preventing violence. But we're going to prevent, again, that was the discussion I had on social media today. We're going to somehow affect school shootings with a law that restricts the sale of handguns in stores? Sorry, you can't get there from here. You just literally can't get here from here. I'll tell you, it's a quarter hour. Let's take a break there. We've got another caller on the line and another person calling in at the same time. We'll go back to the phone lines and wrap up this edition of the Gun Guy Show when we come back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
No matter where you head on your commute, Matt Bear is there. Paris.
Les Champs-Élysées sont un véritable parking ce matin.
Warsaw.
W drodze do pracy wyjdź trochę wcześniej.
Or Brazil.
Temos bisbilhotice no Rio de Janeiro. Não haja como turista.
Matt, these are all cities in Indiana.
Oh, that makes my job easier.
Making your commute easier. Matt Bear Traffic. Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
And Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show. Jack is on the phone. I think I may have jumped in when I wasn't supposed to. I'll tell you, let's talk about my Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. Essentials of Indiana Gun Law is coming up Saturday, March 15th at Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range. That's going to be 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need. I'll tell you what, I've noticed several people have signed up right online. Even during the show, we may be getting close to that selling out, but I know there are still seats available. You can sign up right online. Go to tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just go to upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. The best dealers in the region will be at the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
Are you thinking this year I want to look and feel better and get my hair back? We Grow Hair Indy can help you do just that. I'm Rob, and I got my hair back at We Grow Hair Indy. Here's Darren Andrews, clinic director, to tell you why I chose them.
For nearly 20 years, we've helped thousands of clients grow their hair back, and we can help you. We're one of only 2 places in the entire country to offer the ARTIS Robotic FUE and multi-unit hair grafting.
I got multi-unit hair grafting. I love the results and cannot believe how much hair I got back. I can't recommend them enough. Call right now, 317-522-2995 for a free evaluation. Great technology, great company, great people, great results. Go to WeGrowHairIndy.com, see my results, and call 317-522-2995. 317-522-2995. 317-522-2995. Don't you want to say, I got my hair back?
So much to celebrate, but the fight has just begun, especially when we see how abortion took center stage in this historical election. That's why we can't stop talking about the ministry of Preborn. Preborn has rescued over 300,000 babies by loving mothers with unplanned pregnancies and introducing them to their baby on ultrasound. Once she sees her baby and hears their heartbeat, her baby's chance at life doubles. Preborn and their network of clinics are on standby for babies and mothers. Meet Deanna.
They do a bedside sonogram. As I'm looking at the sonogram, the baby waves.
Her baby called out from the womb, and she knew that life was the only choice.
God saved him. Not only did he save him, he saved me in a different type of way.
Your tax-deductible donation of $28 sponsors one ultrasound. Please donate. Just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Jesse. Sponsored by Preborn.
Never miss your favorite shows on WIBC. Get your content to go. Would you like fries with that? Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, Hammer and Nigel, Tony Kennett, The Gun Guy, Home and Garden. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment here of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. My apologies to producer Jack, man. He's over there doing a great job. He's taking phone calls. He's managing the board, handling the bumper music, doing everything he needs to do to keep the show running as it should. And one of the spots ended, and I looked at him like, what the hell's going on? And that's why you heard me stutter a little bit. That's because I had a live read. It was time for me to pitch my show, or excuse me, pitch my class. And I just looked at producer Jack like, what the hell's going on? You would think, after having a radio show for 10 years, I would know how things like that work. So sorry about that, buddy. That was totally my drop ball on that end. I'll tell you what, we've got some more folks on the line, so let's go to the phone line. And I think it says Brian. I'll tell you what, this font for my old eyes on these monitors is really hard to read. But Brian, I think. Brian, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hey, Guy, how's it going?
Good, man. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. I was wondering about magazine maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
How often should I take the rounds out of my magazine? Because I heard keeping the magazine full can affect the spring and may cause a jam.
See, this is really a great question, Brian, and I'm glad you called. Because there's a lot of confusion on this issue, and I've been talking to people about this issue for a long damn time. I've even talked to metallurgists. I've had in my gun law class, I was for some reason somebody asked me about magazines and whatnot, and it turns out I had an engineer who literally worked for a spring company sitting in the, I think it was a metallurgical engineer or something along those lines, who happened to be in the class. He said, let me answer this. And there's a fiction about this. Do you know that a spring, like a magazine spring, wears out not from being compressed for long periods of time. It wears out. That is, it gets stressed, it loses the elasticity in the metal, it loses the performance as a spring, not from being compressed for long periods of time, but by the number of times of it expanding and being compressed. It's that series of being compressed and expanded, the most number of times, that's what wears a spring out. Now, you ask about maintenance. They talk about replacing your magazine springs according to a certain number of rounds that you put through that magazine. Now, I'd be the first one to admit I do not count, and I know people that do this, and you know what? They do it because they're smarter than me. But people that actually do count the rounds they put through their magazines, and they keep keep a close tab on that, they monitor that, and they change the springs accordingly. I've not done that. I have a general idea of how old how old my magazines are, and on that basis, want to replace them as necessary or replace the springs in them. But in most manufacturers of magazines or guns generally that have a magazine that comes along with them will tell you how many rounds you ought to put through a magazine before you need to replace the springs or just replace the magazine. But it's a great question. keeping magazines clean, because maintenance of magazines is not just making sure the springs are maintained or new enough, not worn out. It's also keeping debris, dirt, dust, other things that can inhibit the performance of the magazine. Very important to keep an eye on a couple of things. The top lips on the magazine, probably not the official terms, but I've always called them, to make sure they're not bent, distorted, chipped, and also the condition of the follower. The follower is that piece, maybe metal anymore, it's mostly plastic or polymer of some kind that rides on the top of that spring that pushes the bottom round all the way up. That follower can also be damaged. It can get misshapen, it can get chipped, it can get bent, and that can impact the performance of your magazine as well. So it's not just the spring that you need to worry about with maintenance of magazines. That is a fabulous question. In 10 years of having this show, it'll be 10 years in July. I know this because I looked up the original post when I announced the show, because I couldn't remember how long I'd had the show, and I actually found a post on Ingo, IndianaGunOwners.com. I found a post where I announced the Gun Guy Show was starting, and it was going to be, I'll have to look up the specific date again. I'll look for it on Ingo. But it was mid-July in 2015, so I'm coming up on a 10-year anniversary. We'll have to do something cool about that. I'll tell you what, we're almost at the end of the show, but Steve has called. Steve, you got a quick question for us, buddy?
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick, sir.
Sure.
By the way, I appreciate your show.
Thank you, man.
I'm trying to will all my guns to my son. I have all the serial numbers written down.
Uh-huh.
And right now they're locked in a giant Winchester safe, so everything. He's 11.
Yeah.
And in my will, I've stated that he's only supposed to use certain guns when he turns 18 and 21, and only he takes safety classes, and
Uh-huh. Hey, buddy, I got
wondering
about 20 seconds, so I'm sorry. Can I answer a quick question for you?
Yeah.
So what's the question?
Well, it's been notarized, and I just wanted to know if there's anything else I had to do.
No, I mean, guns, if it's not, NFA items, just regular, what we call Title I firearms, nothing special you need to do. Just exactly like you're doing it, you're good to go. And that brings us to the end of this week's Gun Guy Show. Come back next week. Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
You know that Andy Moore Ford is the place to go for your car, for your truck, for your SUV, or your electric vehicle. And now you know that Andy Moore Ford is the only place to go for your commercial and fleet vehicles as well. Business owners, listen to me. You've got a fleet, right? You got the work trucks, you got the work vans. I don't know the configuration you need, but Andy Moore Ford knows how to make it happen.